We are back on Locked On Bulldogs here talking recruitment. We just got one of the best linebackers to ever sign at Georgia. Some may even say the best. We've had a whole slew of them. We're going to talk about Justin Williams as well as a number of other recruits that might be becoming Bulldogs with Brian Smith next on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back, Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We are here talking about a number of things, Justin Williams' commitment, KJ Bolden, and some other names because recruitment doesn't stop. We're here with Brian Smith at FB Scout _ Florida. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, brother. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. Dog Nation is doing fantastic because we got a kid who is now part of the fold that for all intents and purposes is the best linebacker right away to sign at Georgia. And he said in his commitment, Georgia has produced linebackers into the NFL time after time after time. Shu and Kirby are doing some work on the trail. So let's begin with this. Justin Williams commits last night, 6'2", 205 out of Texas. Who is this cat? What is he known for? What does he bring to the table?
I think he's a kid that can play all three in a traditional 4-3 linebacker set. Of course, UGA runs a 3-4, which makes it more unique. And I still think he could play either of the inside spots, but I have a feeling the Dogs will move him around a little bit. This is a kid who's, not surprisingly, very fast. He ran down a receiver on the first play of his huddle. That was a really fast. I mean, he plays in Houston. For those of you who don't know, Houston's elite football, and he runs like a kid that's $170, and that's the first thing. And then he will thump you. He'll get in there and he'll shoot gaps. He'll be very aggressive. He diagnoses very early in a play, which that's innate, but he's very good at it. And then finally, he's a guy that kind of makes the play, whether it's stripping the ball or whatever. It's kind of an it factor. And those are the kids that end up getting drafted. So I love him. I think he's a kid that while he's going into a complex scheme that Kirby runs, they'll find a way to get him on the field early. He's not going to sit long.
No, not going to sit long at all. Like we've said, top 10 national composite recruit, no matter of position, number one linebacker, Texas. You mentioned, I mean, we're talking Texas here. Okay.
Yeah, like great football.
They know how to play. And you said there's two basic types of linebackers. I've also simplify and make binary. There's the Monty Rice, who time in, time out is going to make plays at Georgia. When he was here, he was consistent. He was a solid tackler. And then there's the Nakobe Deans, maybe Channing Tindall, who are heat-seeking missiles that make the play, the interception, the fumble, the sacks. And yeah, you look at his tape. You said diagnostic skills. My gosh. There are a couple plays that he did his homework because he knew the play was going to be before it was snapped. That's instinctual. That's incredible. You look at 205 and you think, oh, undersized, but no, not how this kid plays. He's going to bulk up. He's going to get to that, and he's going to be super quick, super fast, set and edge. And I just can't help but see Nakobe Dean from the middle when he's playing that middle. There's other positions. There's kickoff that he had some highlight from, but man, out of a cannon shot and tracking down guys. It's unreal. With how many linebackers Georgia has, you said they're going to find a place for him to play. Georgia has been known to put freshmen onto the field. It doesn't matter. Linebacker is notoriously hard in the SEC to get the nuance and the complexity. It is so difficult to do. When do you anticipate him playing? How soon could he see the field at UGA?
In packages from game one. 1st and 10 against a quality opponent in the SEC, he'll be standing next to Kirby because of what you said. There is no shortcut with a 3, especially being an inside linebacker in a 3-4. You got to know where everybody's at. That's not realistic. But I still think he's got a chance to be a Roquan Smith kind of player. We're directing guys and all that. I still think that Roquan, just for the record, is one of the most important guys in the last 10, 15 years at Georgia because he kind of changed that culture.
Yes.
And, he was a 3-and-out guy talent-wise anyway, but he was as good a player as there was in college football his last year because he made the play that nobody else did. And I think Justin has a chance to get to that point, but that's all this stuff. And it's just a ton of study in the playbook and all that. Give him some time. But first, I think they'll find a way to use him in nickel and dime again, his speed is ridiculous, and he
Absurd.
can cover. So why not find something for him? Blitz a little bit. Like Michael Williams wasn't going to start last year, but they had to get him on the field. They found ways to do it. You find ways that would, kind of take away from knowledge of the playbook, the ball, kill ball, that basic. He's going to outrun everybody to the football anyway, even if they know where he's at.
Yes.
Who cares?
Yes.
I'm just better than you. Sometimes don't make it too complex. Let's just
just get to football. And that is, this, you said Roquan Smith. That's my personal favorite dog of the last 10 years. Not the best,
great.
but my personal favorite because of how he transformed the entire defense, and Kirby Smart really made that staple, that name for itself. And Justin does have that ability to, again, be cerebral. He's not just only a thumper. He is a thumper, but he's some guy that knows he's got a trajectory. He's got a plan. He wants to come play with Shoe. And by the way, Glenn Schumann, my gosh, why don't you just go ahead and pick anybody you want? My 33 years old, this kid is just, and I say kid because I'm literally older than him, and he's plucking out 5 stars whenever he wants them. Justin Williams is a special one, is a good one. We're going to come back after this. I'm going to ask Brian about a name. We got the number 1 quarterback. We got the number 1 linebacker. Are we in the mix to get the number 1 safety at UGA? But first, these. And these are eBay Motors. eBay Motors right now is the place that you need to go to get the right part, the right fit, at the right price for your car. I've used them a dozen times when I got headlights. I got an old Bronco that I'm redoing. I've had little parts here and there with a little window treatment, little power windows. These parts are at eBay Motors, and the right part, the right fit, the right price. You go over there, you put into your garage the make, the model, the year of your car, and eBay Motors has a guarantee. It guarantee fits, and it's only available for U.S. customers. You get over there right now. You put your make and model in, you search your part, and they're going to go ahead and give that actual guarantee. And if they can't get that guarantee, if it doesn't fit your car, if they're wrong, they're going to give the money right back to you. ebaymotors.com. Get over there right now. Fill in all your details. Fill in everything that you need for the right part, the right fit, the right price. That's ebaymotors.com. Get over there right now. We're back with Brian Smith, FB Scout _Florida over on Twitter or X, depending on what age you are. If you know anything about that now, you talk about it.
I didn't know what was going on either. Where am I?
I have no idea. Brian, there's another name. We beat out Oregon for Justin in the recruiting cycle, and also there's a couple more big guys out there. We missed out on Sammy Brown, but that's okay. Nobody's complaining about that today because we got a better linebacker in my estimation in Justin. We'll see how that plays out over the next couple years. But another name that Georgia fans have been long for is KJ Bolden. He makes his announcement on August 5th. He's already scheduled that. We are a couple weeks away from that. Tell us, you have any word or hearing anything about KJ's recruitment as it comes down to the wire?
I was told yesterday that it's going to be Georgia. That can always change, but he told one of the other recruits that I know that it's going to be Georgia. Simple as that. And it's a kid I've known a long time, and he offered it to me. I didn't even ask. Okay. So, and he's friends with KJ, but that's part of the process.
Yep. Because
these kids change their minds. So keep that in, like, we're dealing with 17-year-olds. Tomorrow he could call that same kid, say, I'm going to Ohio State. So,
that's right.
That's what I call the leader in the clubhouse.
Yes. That is a good way. That is a fantastic analogy. It's the golf analogy. Is us saying, if I had to make a bet, I'm going to bet on Georgia. I'm going to take a ticket that's going to get me a bet because they're already leading the clubhouse. Somebody could have an incredible back nine and go ahead and storm up, and Ohio State can do some weird stuff. Again, we never know. But if you just look at the tea leaves of what's happening, if you look at a couple of camps and you look at just optics, look at the photos, look who KJ's joking around with, look who he's hanging out with, look at the kids that he's around. And when you tell other recruits, because these guys love playing with each other and they love making decisions on where their friends are going to go. So if KJ's telling somebody, hey, I'm going to Georgia, it's either to tell him you do you based on your decision, but just know here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm leaning, here's what I'm doing. And then you make your decision. I want to give you information. But if that's the case, let's just say, like you said, leader in the clubhouse, KJ tells a recruit tells you, this is all we got. We got tea leaves in the recruitment world. If that's the case, if that's holding true, number 1 quarterback, number 1 linebacker, number 1 safety, possibly we're going to get to in the second, possibly Frazier, number 1 running back in the land as well. How do you look at this recruitment cycle for Georgia? If those three, Justin Williams, and we haven't even gotten to defensive line, maybe a couple cats are looking at it as well, but number one quarterback, number one linebacker, number one safety in the nation. What does that do for Georgia's recruitment cycle in your eyes compared to the rest of the nation?
Barring something unforeseen, it's going to be pretty hard for them not to finish in the top 3 and almost number 1. I mean, anything's possible. Anything's possible, decommitments and all that kind of stuff. But they're trending at a rate that is not unprecedented, but it's very close to it. Alabama and Georgia are the only ones that really have classes like this.
Yep.
And I mean, Bama's class last year was obviously unbelievable, and Georgia's was pretty close to it. Now the question is, can they close on somebody, especially like a receiver or something, to add on to it? Just whoever. And the Nate Frazier kid we'll talk about in a second is to that. Now the question is, when do they decide? Can they add more? It never really ends. But the other point here real quick, the NCAA's, and I hate this rule, but the non-25 scholarship limit anymore.
Yeah.
I at some point, some school's going to take 50 in a class because it's the only way they can compete with Alabama and Georgia. It's going to happen, and then they'll get rid of that rule again. But how many is Georgia going to take? I have no idea. And I'm not sure Kirby could definitively answer me that if he was sitting in front of me right now. Because are you going to turn down like a high 4-star kid on signing day that wants to flip from Tennessee or Auburn or something? Are you? You know what I mean? So it's hard to say just how good this class can be. I used to be able to say, well, they're at 21 commits.
Yes.
They've got 4 left. I have no freaking idea where he's going to end up at. So
this is like, to me, what the payroll is for like MLB or NFL teams. When you say salary cap, the salary cap is non-existent in those places. They do some magic in the back room with the bean counters. I have no clue. It's not a rule. It's such an arbitrary number, and it's just weird how they move things around. That's what it feels like with this recruit number, because we're sitting at 26 commits, and there's possibly,
when does it end?
When does it end? Is it going to end at 30, 33? We're going to have a couple of guys decommit. Tuggle is wide receiver who doesn't want other competition coming through. It's rumored, and there's smoke around that. Who knows if he decommits, if Wingo comes back? I don't know exactly, but to your point, it's so bizarre. We can't project anything, because you're right. Some really weird Texas A&M type program is going to come around and just start throwing money and just get all the recruits they can for as much money, for 40, 50. And then they'll say, we'll deal with it next year. The team that I'm thinking of that's going to do that is Colorado with Deion. Deion's going to do that.
It could be. And he's not going to take losing. They're going to be awful this year. Awful. It'll be interesting to see what they do. That's a great call by
I think that's going to be the team. And then, the NCAA is going to have to reckon with itself and try to do it and try to see what's happened. We're going to come back after this. I'm going to ask about a running back and a defensive lineman on this incredible tear for Georgia. But first, these. We're going to wrap up the show. Thanks for the $199 being here, the loyal third segment listeners. Bonfire.com/store/the $199. Get your Fluent and Curbonese bottles and buckets. And here comes the Death March t-shirts over there. Really appreciate you guys doing that. Brian Smith, going to ask you one more question, and it's kind of a twofold because there's 2 other names out there. Nate Frazier, running back, number 1 running back in the nation composite, as well as Dylan Stewart, defensive end. Both of these guys are trending towards Georgia, and there's a number of other recruits as well. We have 2 in the fold already at running back, and Nate Frazier is making some googly eyes at Georgia and some recruits that he knows he's talking to and saying the same thing. Puglisi, quarterback commit, as well as others. Where do you put Nate Frazier's commitment watch? If you were to make a guess, if you were to give you some leanings, some tea leaves, what would you put it at?
This one's very simple to me. I used to deal with him a long time ago. Greg Biggins has crystal balled him to Georgia. There is no person for any region in the United States, regardless of network, that is more in tune with what's going on in the state than Biggins in California, and specifically the Mater Days, and LA's an LA guy. If he said it, it's done deal. Done deal.
As
soon as I saw that, I stopped my research.
Yes.
I didn't call nobody. I didn't care.
That's it. If you know Mater Day, if you know LA, if you know recruitment, Mater Day, any USC history from 20 years ago that had good
all
players,
those kids, then
they came from Mater Day. That was it.
That's why USC and Pete Carroll won. They got all the LA kids then. And that's why I'm really hesitant with USC moving forward. As a side note, they're not getting those kids right now. And I don't understand why. You would think with their excitement, they're losing. Oregon's getting them, kids leaving, going to SEC. It's bizarre. And I think Frazier's the next one.
I think you're exactly right. It's really, really unique to me. Lincoln Riley might be able to diagnose X's and O's, but right now he is not able to do anything on the recruitment trail as it pertains to those guys. And it's quite unique to me. That modern day, that running back, if he gets in the fold, all of a sudden, again, there's reloaded back there. It's the Raiola effect. It's the offensive line that we've seen already do that. Raiola said, Puglisi said, hey, this is the trench warfare that we need that's going to keep it going. All of a sudden, running backs come in and they see what can happen at Georgia with a three-headed attack to say, we're going to keep you fresh. We know running backs have a shelf life. We're not going to grind you out and crush you and kill you. We're going to keep you fresh. We're going to keep you going. And if you can play, you're going to play early on. Look at Robinson from this last year for Georgia. I think that's going to continue as well. So high marks. I tend to agree. The second I saw Frazier start interacting with other UGA guys out there, and you got the Brock Bowers from California, everything, you saw it. And then you're right. Guy that has connections out there. West Coast is a SEC people. This is not West Coast is a little different on recruitment wise, and there's a little bit more clarity. SEC South kind of keeps it's harder. West Coast is a little bit. There's Oregon, USC, UCLA, maybe occasionally, and if you're looking elsewhere, if you're looking across the country, it's going to happen. I think you're exactly right. Let's talk about another name. Defensive line, defensive end, edge guy, Dylan Stewart. He's maybe some leanings to Georgia, maybe not. Top 50 guy, depending on the recruitment services that you look at. Where do you see his recruitment as it pertains to Georgia as well?
This is a very, very interesting one. He's kind of the silent mode now. And not that I have contacts in DC, but I know from talking to people, Ohio State, Georgia, those are two. But right now, and it's just entertaining to me because Ohio State has a great class, but their fans are all up in arms because they don't get every single kid. And there's a lot of bitching about their defensive staff. Like, it's insane.
Yes.
Ohio State fans are my least favorite to deal with in general. They drive me bananas. I'm just being honest. I'm not a Georgia fan. I'm not Ohio State. They just drive me nuts. But anyway, they're bitching and moaning about Jim Knowles and that staff not getting guys. Yeah. Look, I do not shed a tear for Ohio State's recruiting. Come on, bro. Come on. First off, I just want to do that. Number two, I don't see how Ohio State, unless something changes dramatically this fall, because Dylan will probably be a signing day kid.
Yeah.
I don't see how he ends up there, even though he's a priority, because they're not developing kids all of a sudden. And I'm not sitting here saying I understand. Well, I have no idea. But their defense last year, I watched the Michigan game. It didn't take very much to figure out they weren't very good.
No.
And it's not a lack of talent. It's not a lack of talent. So again, like I tell everybody, I do all these podcasts on the Locked On Network. Anytime they bring up a kid that's recruited by Georgia, I always tell them the same thing. Prove me wrong. He's going to Georgia. People get pissed, but I said they develop the kids. That's why they go there. And I talked to all these guys off the record. My pick is Georgia until otherwise known.
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't, and again, he doesn't really deal much with media. He's kind of over it, which is fine. But I'm picking Georgia until otherwise known.
Yeah, it feels the same way to me. Every single time I see an Ohio State kid, as it used to be running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive side, I got really nervous.
Offense different. I do not want to recruit against them for offensive skill guys at all.
And that's why Raiola was such a big deal, I think.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird and it was big. But you're talking defense. Now, you say that's Michigan. I get a little worried when you say Michigan. When you say somebody else in the SEC, Alabama, I get really nervous because you're telling me if it came down to Georgia and Ohio State for a defensive guy, all I got to do is just sit back and be like, look at the tape, look at the Bills, look at the guys in the league right now who are making it, who have been drafted, who did get developed. And you're exactly right. Look, anytime I watch Fox Big Nooner Kick and they talk about the defense with I just laugh. I'm like, you have no concept of what defense is. You're all playing Northwestern, and I know we got Vanderbilt, but it's a different breed down here. I tend to think the same. Dylan seems to me to be a lean. It is good. I like a kid that's just kind of over the media stuff. To your point, let's all slow down. This is probably a day of understanding, and let's just chill on that. He is Brian Smith. Go check him out at FB Scout _Florida for all that interaction. Any camps, anything you traveling for soon, or those kind of?
Well, media days are right now here in Florida. I went to the one in Orlando yesterday. There's going to be one in Hillsborough, which is Tampa, coming up this weekend, etc. Then there's one in Fort Lauderdale, one in Miami. There'll be something Georgia related out of it. I'll talk to, I'm sure, a guy named Smith that's a receiver that everybody wants to know about that's down in South Florida and all that. But there'll be something Georgia related. There's one actually in Atlanta coming up this next week too. So I don't know who all is going to it, but that's like every program in the state of Georgia. There'll be some news coming out about the Dogs.
There will be. He's Brian Smith. Thanks for joining us, Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, and we'll see you all next time.